Harvey Whitehill was a multifaceted figure in the American West, known for his roles as a miner, rancher, lawman, and politician. Born on September 2, 1837, in Wayne County, Ohio, Harvey Howard Whitehill eventually made his way to Leadville, Colorado. He played a significant role in the early gold discoveries in California Gulch. By 1860, he had extracted around $15,000 worth of ore from his mining claim. In the following year, he relocated to New Mexico, where he worked as a freighter and miner. By 1870, he had established his residence in Silver City. Whitehill contributed to the town's development by constructing one of its earliest houses and engaging in silver mining for several years. During this time, he married a woman named Harriet Stevens, and together they had 9 children. In 1874, amidst a tumultuous period in the town's history, Whitehill secured the position of Grant County Sheriff. His tenure as sheriff gained notoriety, notably for his involvement in the first arrest of Billy the Kid. When Billy, who was going by Henry McCarty at the time and just 15 years old, was caught stealing a quantity of cheese, Whitehill arrested him. However, after a sincere apology and a commitment to reform his ways, Whitehill, who had apprehended the young delinquent with the intent of setting him on the right path, decided to release him. Unfortunately, this approach proved ineffective, as Whitehill later arrested the kid in September for stealing clothing from a local Chinese laundry. Nevertheless, the young man was not incarcerated and managed to escape the next day. The subsequent year, Whitehill brought in a man named Dan Tucker, who would later earn a reputation as a formidable lawman, with the moniker Dangerous Dan. Many folks had reservations about his hiring because Tucker had previously ridden alongside the outlaw John Kinney. However, the two of them proved effective in taming the small town, engaging in multiple shootouts with outlaws and rowdy miners. They also carried out several lawful hangings following court convictions. Whitehill continued in his role until 1882, when he was elected to the territorial legislature. However, by 1884, he found himself back in the law enforcement business and played a key role in apprehending the Kit Joy gang of train robbers. In 1891, he faced indictment on charges of allowing a prisoner to escape and embezzlement, which marked the end of his law enforcement career. He then transitioned into farming and cattle ranching. Harvey Whitehill passed away on September 7, 1906, in Deming, New Mexico, and was laid to rest in Silver City. While not as famous as many other Old West lawmen, Whitehill is recognized by numerous historians as having been more successful than a substantial portion of his counterparts. One author even labeled him as one of the 12 most underestimated gunslingers of the Old West. Neil Howie served as a territorial lawman in Montana and frequently collaborated with the Montana vigilantes to cleanse the region of outlaws. Neil Howie was born in Ayrshire, Scotland in 1837. He emigrated to the United States during his youth and was raised in Wisconsin. As he matured, he journeyed westward, spending some time in Colorado before ultimately arriving in southwestern Montana in 1863. In this new territory, Howie engaged in gold prospecting and worked as a freighter, shuttling goods between Salt Lake City and the Beaverhead-Madison region. During a return trip from Salt Lake in January 1864, Howie managed to capture the notorious road agent Dutch John Wagner all by himself. He promptly handed Wagner over to the Montana vigilantes, with whom he had forged a connection. It's said that Bannock Sheriff Henry Plummer had attempted to recruit Howie into his outlaw gang. The Innocents, but Howie firmly declined the offer. In April 1864, Howie was appointed as a deputy sheriff in Madison County. Later that summer, he achieved the distinction of becoming the county's first sheriff elected by popular vote. Although he held an official lawman role, Howie sometimes expedited justice by delivering outlaws to the vigilantes. According to program last night, a party of us went up 1.5 miles to give a man by the name of Tweed 50 lashes. He shed some tears while receiving his sentence. The boys gave him 10 days to leave. The time was up last night. If he don't leave in 5 days, he is to get 100. Then if he don't leave, to be hung. Neil Howie diary entry, March 24, 1865. In July 1865, he received the distinction of being appointed as the inaugural U.S. Deputy Marshal for the state of Montana. He journeyed to Helena, Montana, with the mission of upholding federal law in this newly established territory. Come July 1867, he obtained a commission as a colonel for the 1st Montana Volunteer Cavalry, taking charge of his troops in the construction of Fort T.F. Meagher and Fort Howie. Towards the end of August, his troops engaged in clashes with Crow Indians who had been targeting settlers in the area. Subsequently, he ventured to Wyoming and Colorado before relocating to Utah in 1872. In 1874, the allure of gold led him to South America, where he assumed the role of manager for the Remington Company's quartz works. This establishment was situated on Trinidad Island, off the coast of Venezuela. Unfortunately, he contracted malaria in March 1874 and passed away there. John B. Jones, a Confederate officer during the Civil War and a major in the Texas Rangers, had his origins in Fairfield District, South Carolina, where he was born on December 22, 1834, to Henry and Nancy Robertson Jones. His family moved to Texas when he was a mere 4 years old, settling in Travis County. He pursued his education at Rudersville College near LaGrange, Texas, but later returned to South Carolina, where he attended Métis Zion College in Winsboro. Upon completing his education, he returned to Texas and immersed himself in farming and raising livestock. When the Civil War erupted, he willingly enlisted in the Confederate Army as a private in Colonel Benjamin Terry's Texas Rangers. Within a month, he received the appointment as adjutant of the 15th Texas Infantry and served throughout the Trans-Mississippi Department during the entire war. His service extended to Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Indian Territory, and in 1863, he assumed the role of adjutant general for a brigade. The Confederacy's defeat deeply affected Jones, and following the war, he spent time traveling in Mexico and Brazil, endeavoring to establish a colony for disheartened former Confederates. However, not finding a suitable location, he ultimately returned to Texas. In 1868, he was elected to the Texas State Legislature but did not take his seat. In May 1874, Governor Richard Koch appointed him as the major of the Frontier Battalion of the Texas Rangers, entrusting him with the leadership of 6 companies. During his tenure, he was actively involved in numerous skirmishes with Comanche, Kiowa, and Apache Indians. In 1877, he was dispatched to El Paso to help restore order among the local population. That same year, he traveled to Lampasas, Texas, to mediate a truce in the well-known Horrell-Higgins feud. Jones also played a significant role in capturing or eliminating various outlaws, with perhaps the most notable being Sam Bass in 1878. Bass and his gang had been plundering trains in Texas for several months, prompting the Texas governor to call upon Jones and his Rangers to put an end to it. The press dubbed this pursuit the Bass War, as Jones and his men relentlessly pursued Bass for 4 months until they finally cornered him in Round Rock, Texas, that July. In the ensuing gun battle, Bass was wounded and succumbed to his injuries several days later. In 1879, Jones assumed the role of adjutant general for the state of Texas. While he served in this capacity and continued to command the Frontier Battalion of the Texas Rangers, he passed away from natural causes in Austin on July 19, 1881. He was laid to rest in Oakwood Cemetery. John B. Jones is a distinguished member of the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame. William Red Angus, the sheriff of Johnson County, Wyoming, found himself entangled in the Johnson County War, a conflict between large and small ranch owners in the region. Born in Zanesville, Ohio in 1849, Angus's early years led him to serve as a military teamster in Kansas. He briefly joined the Kansas Volunteer Cavalry and was present with General Custer during the assault on Black Kettle's village at the Battle of the Washita in Oklahoma in 1868. Subsequently, he continued his career as a wagon driver in Indian Territory. In 1880, he was tasked with driving a cattle herd from Texas to a ranch near Sheridan, Wyoming. Upon his arrival, he made the decision to settle in the area. About 8 years later, he operated a liquor store in Buffalo, Wyoming, and successfully secured the position of sheriff for Johnson County in the 1888 election. Situated in the heart of cattle country, Angus aligned himself with the small ranchers during the Johnson County War, when the cattle magnates assembled a group of 50 men to intimidate the small ranchers. Angus formed his own posse and initiated a siege on the ranch where they had taken refuge. For 3 days in April 1892, a barrage of bullets flew back and forth between the two opposing factions until the 6th Cavalry from Fort McKinney was called in to quell the conflict. Although Angus ran for sheriff again the following year and did not win, he chose to remain in Buffalo, where he worked at the Occidental Hotel. He also served as a deputy county clerk and the Johnson County treasurer before his passing in 1922.